it's Craig, the Information Lab here. And about a week ago, I saw a tweet from Tableau's Zen master, Tamas Foldy. And it was something that caught my eye because it, like lots of Tamas's content, it was about something that's not documented and something that I've never heard of before. If we take a look at it, it was about something called the External Service API. And looking at the blog post that accompanied that tweet, Tamas goes through how basically you can make use of the TabPy external service connection to point it at your own REST API to have your own code process data from Tableau in real time outside of the product, and then return anything that you want to back into Tableau. And in the example Tamas looks at, he uses Haskell to go off and do a calculation based on the data that's been sent. But when I saw it, I thought, well, I would really like to make use of an external REST API to pull data live into Tableau Desktop. And I'm a big fan of REST APIs and pulling data into Tableau through web data connectors. I've built a fair few web data connectors now. But one of the things that's always bugged me is that the data that you can grab through a web data connector and pull down into Tableau, it's a one-time operation. So when you create the connection or you refresh that connection, Tableau goes and grabs the data that you've requested and pulls it down into your data source. Now, what happens if there is just too much data for you to have, an entire data set? So let's think of an example where that might be the case. And something that pops to mind is weather data. So you could have, weather across multiple years. So for every single day, perhaps even potentially down to the hour or even the minute, you have a weather forecast or, actually the current weather situation at a particular location. And then you can have locations all around the world. So you could have thousands of locations, and then you could have, days spanning many, many years. And so to grab all of the potential locations that someone could request, and then also to grab an entire date range that someone could need, it's almost an impossible task. It's really something that isn't possible in Tableau using that traditional web data connector. But with this new external service, this discovery of this external service API, is it possible to put something external to Tableau Desktop that would receive the data point that you've clicked on, go off to that weather API, grab the data for that location and that date, pull it down, and then return it into Tableau Desktop to be visualized? Well, yes, it is possible. And let's take a look at what the result of it actually is. So in this example, I have Superstore sales across 4 years and locations all across Europe. And what I want to do is understand sort of the footfall of that I'm receiving in various locations. And so I need to get that context of what is the weather in these different locations, because that might explain whether I've got high footfall, I'm selling a lot of things, I have a high quantity of sales or of items being sold, and if the weather's bad, maybe that explains why I have a low quantity being sold. So this is a lot of data points. This is 5,075 data points. But that is, tiny compared to all of the potential data points I would have to get in order to anticipate all of the different places that someone could click and all of the different dates that someone could request. But instead what I've done is connected this Tableau Desktop instance up to an external service. And the external service that I have is just running on my local machine, and it's essentially just going to receive the data point that I click on and is going to send the request to a web service, a weather REST API, in this case by Dark Sky. So let's try it. Let's click for Hartlepool on the 6th of September. And we'll see down the left-hand side here, my web server has gone off and grabbed, it's received the 3 arguments. It's received the latitude and longitude of the location that I've requested. And it's also received the date that I want the weather for. And then I've also told it in the way I've gone and created this chart here, using the points from Tamas's blog post, and I've embedded in, oops, sorry, wrong calc. Let's try this one. So I've gone and told my script, which is called through that external service, that I want in this case, the temperature max for a latitude, longitude, and then I've built a date string in here. And so these are the 3 arguments that get sent to the script, and then this tells my service what script to execute, or what, in this case, the way I built it, what data I want it to return. And I've also got wind speed as well, and also precipitation probability. So we can see these being hit in my console here. So precipitation probability for this location, this date, and it returns a response of latitude, longitude, and then this object which contains all of the weather information in it, and then I return it back to Tableau. So essentially we have part of our data in here, and as the end user of this dashboard requests more data by clicking on a data point, the external service is doing all the work to get the weather for this location. Now, one of the things I learned when I built this, and you can see basically on how many lines this is producing, is Tableau is pretty chatty. Okay, it's going off and calling this over and over and over again, and I haven't counted it up line by line, but basically it seems like what it does is it calls my external service 3 times, because I have 3 different measures here accessing it. But then because it's rendering 3 marks, it seems to call it 3 times again. So I think for every time I click, there are 9 calls going off to my external service. And that made things very, very slow and clunky when I first built this. And sort of every time you clicked on something, you get the loader. And that, even though we're only talking like half a second or something like that, it made Tableau feel very clunky. It also gave me a brand new respect for just how fast Tableau is. So what I had to do that one's got a dodgy value in it. What I had to do when I built this is work in some, you can see it says cache hit every so often. So basically what it does is it checks to see if it has the data from the REST API in cache. If it does, then it uses that cache and it speeds everything up a lot more. So it's only calling out to the REST API once and then reusing that data over and over again. Another thing I found is if you've got 3 different measures, it's calling it 3 times, and it just makes it very, very slow if you're not using that cache. But as far as this is pretty awesome. This is a little bit better even than using an extension, because we could implement like a weather extension, which again receives date and receives latitude and longitude, but that extension wouldn't be rendered by Tableau. It would be rendered in a way that the person has built the extension, and then the data points in the extension, it's difficult to wire up actions and stuff to then make use of those data points further on in the dashboard. Whereas doing it this way means that we get all of the goodness of an extension or a web data connector, in that we get up-to-date live data from a REST API. We have a secret added benefit of we don't have to blow out our data sources to make sure that we have all the data that we need. And then thirdly, a benefit over an extension is that it is a measure that can be used directly in Tableau dashboards. And then we can, like say, wire up highlight actions or parameter actions or anything like that, to just as we would any other data point. So this excited me so much. This is a really interesting, like hidden, undocumented feature. I'm sure there is more that can be done with this, and I hope to see Tableau allowing us to make more use of it and to document it kind of more fully in the future. So that's where I took Tamas's tweet and blog post, and I personally want to thank him for writing such amazing content that allowed me to kind of play with this and to do this. It's something that's fantastic about the Tableau community, that people just love to share this information and in order to inspire and educate others. So I really hope you've enjoyed the content of this video. If you want to see more, please check out the channel from the Information Lab. If you want to get an alert and notification of all great content that we put up, we've got always adding videos from our data school sessions down in London, as well as various bits of content that our consultants love to create. So please subscribe to the video down below, subscribe to the channel, down below. Like this video if you've enjoyed the content, and please comment away, tell me about all the things that you think you could use this external services API for.